Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're tackling something genuinely mind-bending. We are going to take the incredibly dense, ancient wisdom of the Mahaprajnaparamita Sastra, a monumental Buddhist text traditionally attributed to Nagarjuna, and translate it into a totally liberating, modern perspective on reality. I know, it sounds heavy, but stick with me. These ideas can literally shift how you view yourself and the entire world around you. We're going to break down some of its most complex concepts into really clear, digestible insights. Let's get right to it.
So, let's kick off this philosophical journey by questioning, well, absolutely everything. I want you to think about the world around you right now. The chair you're sitting in, the screen in front of you, even the identity you hold in your head. We just walk through life assuming all this stuff is fundamentally solid, permanent, and inherently real, right? But what if they aren't? What if the reality we cling to so desperately is actually just a giant linguistic illusion?
To understand this, we need to talk about one of the text's cornerstone concepts. It's called false names, or Jiaming. Now, putting this into plain everyday language, it simply means that the words and labels we use constantly, they don't actually point to real independent things. Nope, they just describe temporary combinations of conditions. We use these labels entirely out of practical convenience, just to communicate, not because they represent ultimate reality. It's really just a conversational shortcut.
To really wrap our heads around this, the text uses a brilliant physical analogy. Think about fire. What actually is fire? Well, the text points out that fire is essentially just the combination of heat and light. If you were to somehow separate the heat from the light, the fire completely disappears. There's no magical third independent entity called fire just floating around out there. The label fire is literally just a conditional illusion, a handy shorthand we invented for when heat and light crash together in a specific way.
And here's where it gets really personal, because this exact same logic applies directly to us. We walk around fiercely attached to this idea of my body. But break it down for a second. What we call a body is really just a temporary collection of a head, a neck, shoulders, limbs, and bones. If you laid all those parts out separately, which is a bit of a weird visual, I know, but where is the body? It vanishes. We just conveniently slap the single illusory label onto a temporary pile of parts.
Section 1. Subhuti's Ultimate Emptiness, the Unfindable Reality.
Okay, so here is where the Buddha's disciple, Subhuti, takes things to the next level. He introduces ultimate emptiness, or Bisingkong. Now hold on. Emptiness here does not mean some depressing black hole or absolute nothingness. Not at all. It's the profound truth that absolutely all phenomena, no exceptions whatsoever, lack a fixed, independent reality. And why does Subhuti emphasize this so hard? Because he wants to make it crystal clear that not only are everyday objects empty, but even our absolute highest spiritual goals are ultimately empty. Nothing, literally nothing, possesses a permanent self-nature.
Now you might be wondering, doesn't this create a staggering paradox? Subhuti essentially asks the Buddha, if reality is entirely an illusion of names, just temporary combos of stuff, how on earth can we even define a bodhisattva, right? A bodhisattva is supposed to be this heroic spiritual figure striving to save all beings. But if the person is just a label, does the hero even exist?
And Subhuti drops this massive, mic drop realization. He says because bodhisattvas and sentient beings are ungraspable, Prajnaparamita is also ungraspable. He's pointing out that the beings we're trying to save, they don't independently exist, they're just false names. Therefore, the bodhisattva trying to save them is also a false name. And the wildest part? Even Prajnaparamita, the supreme wisdom itself used to save them, is equally ungraspable. Even the absolute highest spiritual truth is totally free from being boxed in by our little labels.
Moving into Section 2, breaking Dharma love and attachment, the danger of spiritual clinging.
Okay, so once you start to grasp this emptiness thing, a really sneaky new trap pops up. It's called Dharma love or Fei-ai. The text uses this incredible medical analogy to explain it. See, emptiness is supposed to be the medicine that cures our attachment to the world. But if you rigidly cling to the idea of emptiness, if you fall in love with the concept and stubbornly treat it as the new ultimate reality, well, that medicine just turns right into a toxic new attachment. It is exactly like taking a life-saving drug, but overdosing on it until it literally becomes poison.
You can really see the stark contrast in how we choose to live here. The ordinary perspective, it desperately attaches to labels. We view our jobs, our reputations, our bodies as permanent. And when they inevitably change, because of course they do, we experience immense fear and anxiety. But Subhuti's perspective is a total game changer. By seeing through false names and recognizing ultimate emptiness, you don't become numb or detached. You actually become incredibly light. You get to act with complete freedom simply because there's nothing rigid left to defend anymore.
So the key takeaway here is that this emptiness isn't a bleak, depressing void. Actually, scratch that. It's the exact opposite. It's the ultimate liberation. The text makes it super clear. A mind that deeply gets this has absolutely zero fear of the unknown. No terror at the thought of losing its identity because, hey, it knows that identity was just a false name to begin with. It leaves you with no regret and a completely unhindered, peaceful mind. You are finally free to just engage with the world beautifully, precisely because you aren't trying to possess it.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought to chew on today. Take a real look at your own life, your stresses, your anxieties. What conceptual false names, maybe it's a job title, a rigid expectation, or some idea of who you think you should be, are you desperately clinging to? What rigid labels are secretly keeping you from your own ultimate freedom? Thanks so much for exploring this profound ancient wisdom with us today.